pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. We will start with item number 3, which is discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the appointment of Jennifer Fuller, Deputy Minute Clerk, effective immediately.
So just the tiniest of background, you know that we're going to accept Cassie's resignation tonight, and so we have to have a board clerk. And so it'll be easier. We think this is going to be a 1-month deal, but we're just going to make Jennifer the board clerk until we get the new one. And we hope to have her in, him or her, in April, but Jennifer prefers it this way. So she's going to be doing 2 jobs.
Thank you.
Move approve.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
please.
I just had dental work, so go right ahead.
We want to hear that. I move approval of item 3.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstaff.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item number 4, presentation and discussion by Lingo Construction and Troy Roads regarding the following projects. A, storm shelter elementary and middle school classroom addition. B, proposal for high school gym office addition. And C, softball concession and press box. Thank you for coming.
Yep. Thank you guys for having us. So, just me tonight, you don't get me and Troy, unfortunately. But a little update on where we are at with current projects. We have passed completion by the fire marshal, pending a couple items, but nominally the building is ready for occupancy. We have a couple punch list items remaining, and so you'll kind of see those noted up on the upper right. The signage plaque is back ordered just to material storages right now, so that'll be something that'll come in later. The toilet specialties are something that, because of the funding we had left, is something we ended up adding in, and so those are being installed this week. The exterior punch list is occurring this week, but you can kind of get a little idea. This is before all the furniture moved in. Adam and his team have moved furniture in, so it really looks like a more complete space now if you've been over there. But a little bit of update on the existing project. Any questions on that? Okay. So the first scope of work that we're going to kind of look at is softball concessions. We had looked at this last fall with some people and kind of put together a proposal for Drew, and they have kicked us off on it. So right now I'll overview the main kind of scope, and then we'll look at a few specific scopes where there's a lot of change in detail. So this is the existing concession stand and press box. Concession stand on the first floor, press box on the second. We broke down a rough kind of cost comparison here. Total project value is $61,364. That composed of redoing all the interior of the first and second floor, new floors, new millwork, new electrical upgrades, because right now the electrical capacity wasn't enough to be able to power all the outlets that were in there without tripping breakers. New sink. On the first floor, we're putting in bigger windows. On the second floor, we're adding a window. And then the biggest item kind of on the outside that you're going to see is a new stairwell and sidewalk to get around to the other side bleachers. And so if you notice from this view, you kind of see how narrow that pathway is to get around to the other side. So that will be part of the improvement. So looking at this is the existing stairwell. It's on the east side. It's a spiral stair. It's hard to get up. We're going to be upgrading this to an actual stair that would meet code requirements for this type of space. So it's kind of a rendering of it down there on the bottom. Have a landing up at the top, but it will be a lot more user-friendly to get up and down for moving equipment and stuff, as well as just personnel moving up and down. Because of that, it comes out this way. That will block what little concrete that there was there, and so we're going to have a sidewalk that's going to come out and around to connect the 2 spaces together. Inside on the first floor concession, we're doing new millwork. If you have been over there in the past 2 years since we did the baseball, it'll be nominally the same look as far as color and style as what we did at the baseball stadium, or baseball concession. And so it'll have uppers up here on the top side. It'll have sloped cabinets on the top, so you can put all the candies and things up there and people can see them. On the lower, it'll have a better cabinet, that is, a better countertop that'll be easier to work on, as well as a bigger sink. More space to store stuff down below, and drawers that go in and out. The drawers in the current one, some of them are stuck, some of them are permanently screwed shut. And so, we'll be able to allow the space to be used in a little bit different way as well. We know some people to make it, more counter space over here for like the microwave you see there. I mentioned the plumbing, so we're gonna upgrade the sink to a larger sink. We're gonna have to kind of a mini bar sink. On the wall, you have electrical plugs go around that did not have the capacity, so essentially, even though there's about 20 plugs in there, you only use 2. We're going to upgrade that to give more flexibility for space. On the wall to the left, which faces the field, we're also going to put bigger windows so that when you're in there, you can actually experience the game. Hopefully, be more inviting for people who are serving in there. So, up on the second floor, we're going to replace the announcer's table that's there. Put some storage cabinetry up there, finish out the space with some insulation, which will make it cooler up there. I know that was a concern. And then that will also get a floor in that space as well. So, any questions on softball project?
Did you say a new window up top as well?
Yes,
Okay.
so that is, currently there's 2 windows, up there. We've been installing a 3rd window. The 3rd window is gonna, be more off to the side. I think the desire was to have a space up there where, someone besides the announcers could be looking out the window. And so right now, the windows are positioned where only the announcers essentially would be looking out, so it should be, a new space up there for the person.
Will both spaces be insulated? You mentioned the top would
Yeah,
be.
so the first floor is currently insulated, in those walls. The second floor is only halfway insulated, and so we'd be completing the insulation that's up there, as well as the ceiling insulation that's up there. There's some minor painting on the inside, and on the outside, we would not do any new painting. There is some current logos that are on the field side second floor that would likely need to be replaced at a different location due to the new windows. And so that'll be something that we want to get redone on the outside of the.
Yeah, so the exterior will remain the same, just the interiors, and, we need to check and see if they need an upgraded sound system.
They do.
Yeah, okay, which wouldn't be,
He's not gonna do it, but,
We need
but
that.
the guy that put the one in the, I've talked to, Neil, what's Neil's last name? Neil, that put in our sound system for the
gym.
And he's gonna come out and do that whenever we get this all put together.
in the scoreboard, did we do that too?
Scoreboard is, it won't be a new scoreboard, but.
We're upgrading the
they've-
scoreboard.
They've done some work already, but we'll make sure that it's functioning properly.
So from a schedule standpoint, we released the millwork and we've released the stair fabrication. We anticipate getting all of the work done in April and the first week of May, is our goal. And so, from a timing standpoint, unless there's some material that gets backlogged right now, that's our anticipated schedule.
And this, I wanna just brag on Lingo a minute for this. They don't do these little projects. They're doing them for us. So they did our baseball stuff. They're doing this. They've done a lot of these little one-off things for us. And, you know, they're used to doing multi-million-dollar things. So we appreciate the fact that you're doing this and taking time to deal with it.
It's good. We
Very much.
want to take care of it. So. This is the gymnasium office, the second additional project we're looking at. This is one that's in proposal, so we look for approval to move forward with this one. I gave this kind of blow up so you can see a view of what we're looking at. This is the north side of the gymnasium, so your entry doors are here and here. The weight room, if you're familiar with that, is going to be up here on this northeast side. And so we're looking to finish out that space that's on the northwest side corner of that upper part of the bleachers. What that would involve is 2 main office spaces and then a third kind of open office that's more of a entry for both offices, if that makes sense. It also included a big storage area for that space that's up there.
How big is that storage area? It's just hard to see the numbers on this printout.
I can pull it up on this other diagram. I apologize for that. I'm trying to make a bigger graphic. The storage space is 164 square feet, 21 foot by 7 foot 9. Pretty large space.
Yeah.
And we're tearing out the old bleachers up there.
Yes, there's an existing old bleacher that
We're gonna remove
that used. And so Greg Jones had mentioned that they would salvage the seat tops out for those in order to have the replacement for the other south sides. And as far as the system itself, if you didn't know that. The other office spaces, just for around 190 to 200 square foot, with that open office being right at 110 square foot.
Jacob, real quick on,
Yes, sir.
on this question, on the far right, is that the existing weight room?
Mhm.
Is that where, has that door been moved back to the east, or is that where,
No, that's where that current door is.
is it?
Is that a tight fit?
No, that's a big room right there.
It's a big room, and in the likelihood that you're
It
gonna
goes
have
way
all
over.
those open at the same time.
Yeah,
is
but I'm
pretty small.
saying the doors open into each other. So, you know,
I
that
don't-
would be an issue.
Yeah, I mean,
There's another
I'm gonna-
section, there's another section on that side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's as far as the drawing goes, but, this is roughly half the court. At
Okay.
that standpoint, if that helps get a
Okay.
perspective
Yeah.
of
In
it.
the weight rooms up there.
And so currently, to get to the weight room, you have to put this aisle, and so that's why we're keeping this aisle here. Also, right now, they use this spot for video cameras, I believe, for to video games, and so that still provides that space there for those people. Those two doors are in close contact if they were gonna always be used. I think the idea that one's storage and one is a weight room, you're not gonna frequently be going into the storage room whenever you're needing the weight room, things like that. If we wanted to move that wall back, by all means, we could, if we wanted to use it.
Any thoughts on, from the one office going into the storage room, if there would be benefit to have access from an office into that storeroom right there, a doorway?
That would be all about how you want to plan the space. I think, from a storage perspective, it's always good if you have one entry for storage,
Okay.
because then you can.
Access and better
stack
utilize the
things in
space,
back,
yeah.
not have to have an aisleway all the way through, if you're trying to maximize the storage. Now,
That'd be
if
good.
there is a desire, the potential would be is you could open up, you could put a door here and maybe, put a a smaller partition here to have kind of a small closet from this office and then still a large storage space. That's purely whatever the desire of the school would be. We could incorporate that into the project.
I think the coaches would be the ones that would know the best with that.
Right.
So current just kind of layout of what we are looking at. Current layout of what our proposal includes is these two offices both have windows that are 4 foot tall, 8 foot wide, so it'd be something similar to what you see kind of over there on that side of the library. About that height of a window. They'd be over there on that side. All the doors are hollow metal doors with glass lights in them that are half lights, and so that way you still have the public nature of the rooms without, but still able to have some privacy in there. Each of the offices have a drop ceiling in them like this, so perspective-wise this is what you'll be looking at. The flooring that we have priced for this is going to match what's in the storm shelter corridors right now. So it's that LVT kind of long stuff, same thing we did in this west corridor. Pretty durable material for not having to worry about dirtiness of it, and spills and things. We've included painting both the inside and outside of the walls, with the inside being painted all kind of one color with maybe one accent wall, so there is some character to the space. But that's an overview of what we proposed in the rooms.
And then furniture and like storage racks and things would be separate from all of this? Okay.
And so, you see here, I got the breakdown of the proposal, that kind of outlines the different components of what we're looking at. Doors, hardware, finishes. There is some, we're anticipating to run the existing mechanical, the heat and air for this space off the existing mechanical that's in the gym currently, so it will not have its own heat and air. Right now, you use the gym daily, I believe, and so I don't anticipate that as an issue. If it was a gym where you maybe used it once a day and you kept it at 80 degrees, that would be an issue. I don't believe it would be here. We're also pulling our fire sprinkler work off the existing lines and electrical off of existing electrical. And so, if the board votes for us to proceed with this, we would want to, Lingo would want to essentially go out and verify some of that your existing systems could support this before we start any funding in action, if that makes sense. And so, but we also did not want to go through the process of getting into the spaces and open the ceiling tiles, things like that, until we know that it's something level. Right now, the current proposal for this project is $101,861 to cover that. Any questions on that?
That's good, thank you.
Bring
Thanks.
us your face.
Alright, so we will move to item 5 then. That is discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the gym office proposal from Lingo Construction in the amount of, I don't know that we,
Yeah, what was 104?
okay,
The 104 was, he was trying, we had a second option in there to see if we could get it any cheaper by not having ceilings, having it kind of open ceilings. It was actually more. So I just told him to take the second one out. So we've got one option, it's the 101.
What about the, on 4, are we not needing to give approval for the softball concession? What did I miss?
We've already,
Did we approve
We did,
that already?
yeah.
Yeah.
Was that with the big,
yeah.
the whole,
I just
all those
wanted-
projects?
That's right.
I think so.
Got, okay.
We've already got all
Just wanna
that,
make sure.
that approved.
It's just the visual.
We're ready to go. That's right.
Move approval item 5, option 1.
Second?
Roll call vote.
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wellstead,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much for
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
We do appreciate just the relationship we have, and we're always, like you said, we're here for whatever you guys do. So we appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much. All right, we'll move on to item number 6, presentation of the audit. Mr. Putnam,
All right,
welcome.
thank you. Hope I didn't miss my spot on the agenda there.
You did perfect time.
Yeah. 2 here,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you.
I got one that wants one.
Do you need one?
I've got one in my
Okay.
notebook here, or if I just slide it.
Yeah, sure.
It's been challenging for auditors. The schools have received a lot more federal money, and when they receive we spend over $750,000, that means everybody's got to have their audit done by March 31st. And there aren't enough board meetings so we're doing 5 board meetings in 2 days here, but I'm going to try to keep this one straight here. I know this one was a very clean, good-looking audit, so don't think I'll get it confused with some of my other ones. But we try to do an executive summary, and I think that's on top of the audit report there, that loose sheet. And some good news on that summary, when you look at the changes in the fund balances, we always like to see if we're spending more than we're taking in, and that wasn't the case. We were growing in the general fund by about $431,000, and building fund about $72,000. Even had an increase in the bond fund. The sinking fund, our collections are a little slow there, so we did show a little decrease there, but overall really looked looked good as far as the changes in the fund balance. That's so important when you just have fund balance and new revenue to make up a budget for each year. So sure like to see that. We had about $502,000 of federal dollars came in after June 30th, so that even makes the picture look better in the general fund. As I mentioned, you know, when you spend over $750,000, the federal government gets more interested. They want to see the report at the Federal Clearinghouse, and we here spent about $1,314,000, so we're about twice the amount there. That, I'm sure they'll be paying special attention to the schools that have more federal money expenditures. But we did, I guess, increase our outstanding debt because we had a new bond issue. Even though we paid off some old bonds, we increased our debt about $295,000 last year. But I think those were the highlights of the things I wanted to say. You know, we always put our comments in the back of the report, and just got a couple of things. Had trouble finding anything to complain about, especially in the general fund, the building fund, the bond funds. We did have a couple of things in the activity fund where one where we saw a purchase order that we wished had another signature on it, and one payment where the invoice date was ahead of the PO date. So we can improve, but doing a good job. Of course, we just pull a sample. We can't look at every piece of paper, but we do try to do a good statistical sample and try to give everything a chance to get looked at that's important. And in our sample, we thought doing a great job, and they were sure able to explain any problems that we discovered. So with that, I'll just welcome any questions that you might have tonight.
Means you're doing a good job, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Fortunate to have, yeah, some key staff people.
Jerry, we appreciate you coming out.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I was cutting a little close here tonight.
No problem.
Perfectly.
Yes,
Oh,
perfect
good.
Do
time.
you need signatures?
We,
I'll get 'em after.
we do,
Okay.
yeah, do have that
Yes.
acknowledgement letter, just to say that someone was here to interact with the audit report. Yeah, appreciate your signatures on that. They have relaxed that a little bit now. They changed their form so that we don't have to send in the minutes and the agenda and all that if we use their form.
Just
So
the
we're
form.
sure
Oh.
using their form.
Yeah, it used to be a little
All right.
trickier. Yeah.
Makes it better.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
to
Have a
see
good
you.
evening.
Thanks, Jerry.
All right.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion for that?
Motion approved, item 6A.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstad,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item 7, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve back payment to the Oklahoma Teachers Retirement System in the amount of $8,826.92 plus any additional interest since November 30th, 2021.
So, before Kent Schellenberger, before Drew Eichelberger, there was some, we maybe didn't have everything exactly as it should have been for paying into teacher retirement. And so occasionally we'll get one of these now that these people are retiring. These are things that happened 25, 30 years ago. So as these people are retiring, they're getting with teacher retirement and they're going, hey, I had more days or more years credit than that. And so Dr. Slothauer from across the street, who used to work here, is getting to that point where she's starting to look at her retirement. We didn't pay about $1,500. She wasn't a full-time employee. Tell me if I say something wrong, okay?
Okay.
She wasn't a full-time employee. For 3 years, we didn't pay quite as much as we should have paid. It equated to about $1,500 that we didn't pay in. But that was 20, how long?
It's in 99.
It
so
was in
95.
99. So we're talking about 20 some odd years ago, 22 or 23 years ago. that now the interest and penalties on that has it up to this $9,000. So that $1,500 mistake is gonna cost us almost $9,000. And this is not a mistake on Dr. Slothauer's part. It's, she assumed that it was paid in. So we just have to grin and bear this, and so we'll do it. My recommendation is we do it. You guys decide.
So my question is, there's not any checks and balances along the way to catch something
know
like
if there
this? I
is.
mean, when someone gets ready to retire, it's caught? I'm just curious.
So there is now, there's an employee portal that every person that has contributions paid for teacher's retirement can look at anytime. It shows their contributions for past years, current year. You can predict out your retirement date, all of that stuff. The records that we were able to find here back to '99 were a lot of pencil and paper. And so I don't know how teachers' retirement worked back there. Obviously there wasn't a portal or any kind of digital format. So I don't know how often they were notified about contributions or what that amount would be or should have been.
Do we have, so what year did this take place?
99 to
99.
2005.
And
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so, I mean, could we go back and look at who the employees were at that time? I mean, how can we, I mean, how many more of these are we gonna get, I guess is what I'm.
Hopefully none. I mean, I think the issue comes, yes, we can go back and look, but we can't access teacher retirement records that long ago. And so without them going and looking on their portal, we can't see that their contributions weren't what they should have been. So the burden really falls on the employee to make sure that it's getting done correctly. Because if we call teachers retirement, they're not gonna give us any, that's
Right.
personal information they're not gonna tell us. So, I mean, like Drew said, it's kind of just happening as they're getting ready to retire, and you can see the credit listed for each year is like 0.83, 0.87. She wasn't getting full years, therefore putting her retirement date out further than she was expecting, and that's what started the whole process of figuring out why she didn't get full credit, and then it came back to there was money owed for those years.
I guess we'll find out. We have several teachers retiring, so if they have mistakes, we're going to find out.
And I can tell you, everybody retiring from here is good, because we've already got first step paperwork from teachers' retirement. Nothing's come up from that.
And
Go ahead.
and we, how do we know that we didn't make that contribution? I guess I'm just wondering, did someone state that they had made that contribution, or they just didn't make enough of a contribution?
We made a partial.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let her answer the question, but we made, I think, and you tell me if this is right or wrong. I think where it gets difficult for the people that did this back in the day, the people that were making the calculations, is they weren't doing it on a computer, and they were partial years. So they had to do a little bit of math, and I think they calculated wrong. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think her being part-time complicated things.
Okay.
And so when we pulled the records, I mean, from Lindell days, it's, handwritten, there's where we can see how much she contributed to teachers' retirement as a whole, and we can see where she's written different figures for people, but trying to figure out what those figures are and how they come up to the payment she made is the hard part. It's almost like they're not complete records. And so with none of us being here back then, it's really hard to try to figure out where those records might have gone, because we can't find them in the office. So, I mean, we know we pay teachers' retirement. We can see that. It's just a matter of, did it get applied to someone else? And,
Right.
that part we don't know. We rely on teachers' retirement basically to do an audit on their side and then come back with this and say, here's what was not done correctly.
And these were the only 2 years, because they are just kind of, right, 6 years apart.
Yeah, there was another year that she had in question, but she was not an employee at Bethany that year.
Okay.
Move approval item 7.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstad,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Move on to item 8, the consent agenda. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes from our February meeting? Jennifer?
Okay, starting on page 55 is the activity fund financials. So that is just the summary page of all the funds. And then behind that, page 56 to 61 is the breakdown for each account for the year. And then you can see we've still got quite a bit of outstanding encumbrances right now, 89,000. So hopefully we'll see that number going down over the next couple of months as we get ready to start shutting down for the year. Questions on any of the activity funds? Okay, page 62 starts the general fund revenue. So we'll just start at the district. Taxes are up $36,097 from last year. Interest is down $6,000. And then the next 3 categories, the reimbursement, other local, and general fund refund, are collectively down $76,000. That is the bus grant. So that's why that is down. Child nutrition is the local money. It is actually up $7,632. I think they're doing a lot more a la carte sales than they were at this time last year. And so that brings our total district down $38,628. And then intermediate, county formula is up $133,594. Mortgage tax is up $29,783. So that brings the total intermediate up $163,378 from last year. State gross production is up $10,703 from last year. Motor vehicle is up $113,809. School land is up $4,581. Vehicle stamp is up $705. Foundation and incentive is up $565,044. The FBA is up $9,286. Alt Ed is down $4,729. We have not received all of that allocation yet, so they're just doing it in multiple payments. And then National Board is down $10,000, which just means we didn't have as many teachers qualify for that. Reading sufficiency is up $2,153. Textbooks is up $70,000 from last year. Family and consumer sciences is the same as last year. So total state revenue, we are up $759,989 from last year. Questions about any of that? Okay, page 63 is the federal revenue. We did file a small Indian Ed claim, and so that top number is up $2,519 from last month. And then child nutrition is down $19,169, but we still are waiting as far back as December to collect. So we're just a little off on the months we've collected this year compared to last year. So total federal, we are up $157,215 from last year, which brings our grand total revenue up $1.41 million from last year at this time. Questions? Okay, starting on page 64 are the encumbrances for board approval. There's quite a few on here. You can see a lot of the teachers we're getting their foundation grants and classroom money spent for the second semester. So I'll just point out a couple, and then if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. PO 621, the Children's Centers, you approved a blanket PO to them at the beginning of the year. Their enrollment is up, and so that blanket PO was based on last year. So their child count's up 5 students, and their ESY is up 21, and so that's what that extra $130,000 is. So that just brings it up to that contract amount that was approved. Page 65, down PO 653 is chairs and storage carts for the music department to use in the PAC. And then, do you have questions about any of the others?
Yeah, I have a question on PO 680 on Dreambox.
Mm-hmm.
Last month, we approved a purchase order for Dreambox. Is that this one here?
Yeah, so you approve the contract.
We approved the contract, and this
Mhm.
is the
So
PO
this
for
is the
it?
PO for that contract.
Okay, because it was mentioned last month that they merged with Reading Plus or something like that, and then I just saw this one on here, so I was like, we doing this again? So, sounds
Yeah.
good.
I had a question on 694. Are we paying David now? Is he gonna do our lawn maintenance out of that facility?
Yeah.
Is that new?
Yes, he's gonna work, I believe, up to 15 to 17 hours a week out
Right.
there.
We're having a little bit of trouble finding anybody to do that work.
Yeah,
and
we talked about that.
He offered to do, I think it's 10 to 15 hours a week, and so we're gonna take him up on it, and he'll do, as much as we can to get done, and we'll keep looking for somebody.
I probably should know this, but do we pay David Stiles for his PA at the ball games, at football or basketball? Do we?
That's-
I mean,
No, the answer's no.
He
I think
does
he
that.
volunteers,
I
doesn't he?
didn't think we did, but
yeah.
no.
I mean, he's been a long time volunteer for many, many years. Very appreciated.
He was out there picking up trash the other night in the soccer game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jennifer, what's PO 692, dirt leveling fence removal?
So that was out, by the baseball field. They put the new fence in, and so we needed the old fence taken away, and then due to the fence work, I guess there was some dirt that kind of got left, and so they leveled all of that out.
690, I think there's something about this, the hard drive upgrades.
Yes, that is for the security cameras, just because we've added so many this year. So they, Adam worked with United Systems and determined that it was better for us cost-wise to upgrade the hard drive we had versus purchasing a new one. We wouldn't get a lot more by getting a new one, and it would be a lot more costly. Any more? Okay. Page 68 is the function summary for the general fund. We are currently at 87.6% of our appropriated amount that's encumbered or spent. Last year at this time we were at 84.26%, so we are up 3.34% in the general fund expenditures. Most of that is just all the upgrades we've been doing to athletic facilities and the insurance claims and all of that stuff. The next page, so you guys did approve the softball remodel, but here's the PO for that as well. And so this is coming out of the building fund, the $61,364. And then the next page, 70, is the function summary for the building fund. So remember, the appropriated column here comes from our estimate of needs. We did not know how the red bud funds were going to work back in July when our estimate of needs was completed. And so in order to be able to spend those funds now that we have them, we'll end up needing to do a supplemental at some point to add money to that appropriated amount to account for that. So the red bud funds were $202,000. So nothing's changed on there, but it really has changed.
Of course.
So page 71 is the function summary for the bond fund. It's exactly the same as last month. Nothing new encumbered or spent. And then page 72 is the function summary for the sinking fund. We deposited $19,092 in taxes, and so that brought that appropriated amount and balance up by that $19,000. Questions? The next couple of pages you have are requests for new fundraisers. I think there's 3. Baseball. I think he just added some expenditures there to his merchandise for resale. for additional equipment and merchandise. And then orchestra would like to do the Snap Raise fundraising and also take a field trip.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
Motion to approve that.
Move approval of item 8.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item 9, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the addition of up to 4 minutes to each school day during the fourth quarter for the high school to meet 1,080 hours.
Let Mark talk through that just a little bit.
Yeah. We had within our schedule, you know, the 1,080 hour ratio, we had roughly 5 3/4 days that would have been built in for snow. The 6th snow day really, you know, put its dent in our schedule. So what we ended up is about 70.2 minutes short. So what we'll need to do is just add 2 minutes to each day in the fourth quarter, and that will get us in compliance with that 1,080 hours.
And, you know, 2 minutes ago, what are we doing? You know, we're just, we have to be within the 1,080 hours, so we have to do something. There are lots of ways. We could bring kids back for a whole nother day. We could cancel a day at spring break. We could do something. What we can do that's the least damaging to anybody and still provides some good, which is 2 more minutes that our kids are spending with our teachers every day during 7th hour. So this is only at the high school, but that's causes the least amount of disruption to the schedule and still provides kids and teachers getting that time together.
Motion to approve item number 9?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstad,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item 10, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the number of transfer students the district has the capacity to accept in each grade at each school site.
So all this, you'll see this 4 times a year. If we're gonna keep it the exact same numbers that we did the last time we did this, which was in January. There's no reason to make a change. We've actually gone below capacity in 2 grade levels, and one was at the elementary and one was at the middle school, and they've called people to get people in. So that's the process. So if we get below that capacity number, our principals are monitoring that. They just start calling the next person in that grade level, and that's what's happened. The next one that you do will be in June, and that will be the one for the next school year. And so that may change. We may have a recommendation to change those numbers a little bit, and it may not, just depends on how all that fleshes out after we get to that point. So at this point, we have to do this by the law. You guys have to look at this 4 times a year. So that's what we're doing. We're not making a change. So that's where we are on this.
Drew, remind me, what do these numbers add up to? I didn't put a pencil to the paper.
1750.
1750. And from the administrators, so we have an elementary, so Ruben and Trey. What have those phone calls been like? Just curious. This is a new process. So, you know, did we get all the way down to 10 people? I mean, you know, we're halfway through. I don't want to come over there. I'm just curious how that's going. This is all new.
Yeah, so pre-K, it's a little bit trickier because people have made other arrangements at this point. So we've kind of had a couple things happen. First few people to call, first one, oddly enough, wasn't the right age. Like they were just off on they weren't eligible for pre-K yet, so that happened. Then just other changes. In the meantime, we actually had somebody who lives in district moved in district, contact us. And so right now we're working with them to see about, you know, their enrollment.
So then that spot wouldn't be open,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
where that has gone, but it's been quite a process. It's interesting, and that's not, we see that a lot in August as well with pre-K, when somebody decides not to come or somehow we get a spot and we start calling them late right before school starts, and we see that a lot in pre-K where well, we've already got a daycare lined up, or we've already done this, or AM doesn't work, or PM doesn't work, and so kind of had some of that this time as well. And then we had this other situation with someone who actually moved into district, and we're like, well, if you live in district, then we'll look at that route. So we're currently in talks with them about getting them enrolled. So.
Mine was the first guy, first person. We called him that day, and I said, "Are you still interested?" He said, "Absolutely." And they had records over to me that day, and we enrolled, and that student started today. We asked them if they wanted to wait till after, and they said, "No, let's get in." And
Yeah.
so,
That was my next question. What is the time frame from when we notify them? What is a reasonable time that we give them?
yeah, so we still review attendance and behavior records.
Okay.
And so the timeline is dependent on how fast they can get us records over here, because a lot of times we won't do an official records request unless they're officially coming over. So we ask the parent to go to the school and get those documents for us. And then we review those, and if there's no issues, then we get enrollment paper the next day and try and get them in within the next 24 to 48 hours.
So we do have the opportunity to say no in the event there is attendance or behavioral issues.
Right. And with the new law, up to that, they would appeal to you, and then
To the board?
The state school board could also appeal to the state school board if we denied based on those two criteria.
Okay. Interesting. Good, thank you. That's good. I move.
approval item 10.
Second.
Roll call vote. Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item number 11, staff reports.
Are you pulling that up? While you're looking at those staff reports, you know, Ruben had kind of an interesting thing. I'm gonna let him, it's a cool deal. I'm gonna let him explain it, and we've got a short video to show you based on his staff report.
So one of the things that the Oklahoma State Department of Education put out for everyone across the state was a partnership with Donors Choose that they were going to fund up to $800, but also giving leeway for $200 more for some additional things. So it was basically like $1,000. That on a Friday, it was actually the Friday of the snow day that we were out. That's when it started. So the cool thing was, you know, we kind of knew about this. We'd sent some emails out about, hey, you know, just know this is coming up if you want to do this. Well, that Friday morning of a snow day at 7:30, my teachers have a group me that they're kind of a part of together. And at 7:30 in the morning, the first ding comes. Ding, hey, don't forget, get on this, you can apply. And then it just started. I honestly was like, oh boy, this is early for a snow day, but it kept going, and then throughout that whole morning, it was like, yeah, if you go to this website, do this, and I'm gonna do this. This will be really cool for my classroom. Well, all that to say, across the district, we had over 30 teachers apply for and get these grants for up to $1,000. So, in a random Friday on a snow day, you know, our teachers weren't just at home sleeping in, and I mean, they were up and talking and working, and essentially that's $30,000 that they brought into the district from outside, and it's all stuff for their classrooms. And we had Mrs. Stewart kind of put together some video of just some of the things that they've got for their classroom, and a lot of it's, again, it's kind of like the foundation grants where it's like cool stuff they want in their classroom, but you know, maybe we're not able to say yes to all those things for every teacher, but they're able to go and they did it. And I was just proud of them for taking some time on a snow day to get up early, and because it had like an 8 o'clock start time, and they weren't sure if that mattered, like if you had to be one of the first ones. So they did. They got up early and they were all chiming in, and it was really cool. So over 30 teachers across the district ended up getting a grant approved. So about $30,000 in one day on a snow day. So.
And I don't know how long it's gonna take for this to update, so do you have other questions about the other three, reports for Dr. Flinton or the two?
Did you want to talk about the village? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Really, really excited about this. You you hear a lot about just the emotional well-being of students, and we've done a lot of things with like TBRI and things like that. This is along those same lines, but maybe looking at it from a different perspective. We had a couple of staff people kind of have this idea and bring it. Generally is basically providing support for students who we may see need that additional support, but outside of the academic realm necessarily. So we notice things like, teachers a lot of times, and first thing I'll say is we kind of have this in place with our teachers. I can't tell you how many times a teacher has, got something for students, given $1 for, pajama day, or, bought them something here and there with their own money just to help them out. So it's kind of along those ideas of when a student needs help or needs some support, cupcakes on their birthday. A lot of our parents send up cupcakes. Well, what happens to the kid that doesn't get that? So we've kind of come together with an idea of it takes a village to raise a child, and for some of those kids that we're identifying, we want to surround them with people, particularly one person who kind of watches over them. So our teachers do a good job of watching 20-something kids all at once and taking care of them, but some of our kids need more specific attention. When that kid's birthday comes, do they get this? When it's Friday, pajama day, are they taken care of? When, a cool example, we had Christmas parties, where they could bring something for their stocking. And it's really cool for the kids to be able to bring something and contribute. Well, there was one kid in particular that a teacher knew they're probably not gonna bring anything from home, so they're not gonna be able to feel that same thing. So she went to Target, got some stuff, brought it, and said, hey, why don't you contribute this? So just something like that. That's the idea behind it, is we're gonna partner a staff person with a student to kind of account for those things, look after them in those ways. And we have some things that we're gonna do to support the sponsors as well. And it's really just kind of becoming this really cool thing that we're seeing. I had a kid in my office, and this was just a perfect example. He had made a poor choice, was kind of in trouble. In his frustration, he kind of made the comment of, nobody cares about me. Well, I knew about this particular relationship that he had with this particular teacher, and I was able to say, what about so-and-so? And he paused, and he was like, well, okay, right. But that was such a powerful thing to be able to say, you can't say that. You can't say no one cares about you, because I know better, and I know all the things this person has done, so we're gonna be able to, make sure every child has somebody who they feel is there for them in their corner. So, very cool, very excited about it.
So it's not particular, maybe just their teacher, it could be a different teacher.
Yeah, in fact, we're trying not to partner teachers with students as much as possible, because they are already looking after, 20-something kids in their class. Ideally, it's someone who may not have that immediate connection with students as frequently. So, could be a counselor, could be someone who's not a classroom teacher, but
A staff
so there's a lot of people
person.
yeah, and then we partner some teachers. They want to be involved in it, so we're kind of partnering them with people, and so it's kind of just an idea we're just running with, and
It's wonderful.
it's been really cool so far.
I think we've got the video up, right?
Blow their ears out.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Thanks.
$28,000 on a snow day, that's not bad.
That is awesome.
Can I say one more thing about that? I just.
No, you have used
One
all
more thing.
your words.
No, I have, it's real quick. So another specific example of the village, so book fair. You know, not every kid gets sent in with $20 for the book fair. So as a part of the villager program, we had $300 contributed to an account that then they made coupons for students to take to the book fair for those students that were villagers to take to the book fair and get something from the book fair. So it's just little things like always trying to think about what might a kid not be getting that a lot of other kids are getting, and then trying to take care of that. So
Where did that $300 come from, Ruben? Did you say?
Yeah.
Anonymous.
the staff, I mean, it's the staff and the people who are kind of a part of this committee that have just kind of said, you know what, we want to do this. So, yeah, they opened up actually like a book fair account, like parents could open up for their kids. They opened up a separate one and said, anybody who wants to contribute, here's the link, and then two days later, $300 was in it, so, yeah.
Wow, that's
Really cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Dr. Flinton, on the professional development that you mentioned in your report for summer professional development. So remind me again that TBRI and what that training is.
So we sent kind of a leadership team probably 3 or 4 years ago to the trust-based relational intervention, that TBRI. And then we sent, maybe the next year, we sent Miss April, Miss Bernhard to be trainers. So they became trained and they're trainers. And then we started with kind of a pilot group at the ECC, like the next year. And so it is very similar to what Dr. Bellows just shared with, the village, but it is to give all of our teachers specific strategies and tactics that they can use with our kids. Obviously we've got a lot of kids that come to us that are under-resourced, and so we have done training throughout PD days, where we have a district-wide PD, and those ladies will do a district-wide training. We've sent people off for that training as well. In that report, I know I put the TBRI training that we will continue to do that throughout the district, and also I think nuts and bolts, they're going to a conference in Stillwater, I think some people from each site, which is again just a professional development training. So again, it is how can we equip and empower the adults that are in this environment to continue to do great things for our kids.
Okay. So with that group and is that where we're able to deliver like SEL to students? Is that where that's taking place? I mean, it's kind of the village is kind of doing that.
That's social emotional learning. That is, districts have received a lot of that federal money, and 15% of that ESSER money is tied into social emotional learning for students. I mean, you could argue that all of our students and the adults in this environment have experienced some trauma in the last 2 years with a global pandemic. So it is, things that we're doing at each site. How can we continue to build that relationship, that relational capacity with kids? How can we continue to support them and their families and throughout the community? So I know that at each site, they're doing specific things to continue to build those great relationships with kids, greeting kids at the door and making sure that they have contact with 3 to 5 adults to say, good morning, great to see you, great day for learning, prior to even rolling into a classroom, right? Okay. So it's all about, again, continuing that to build great relationships and to be aware and to equip our adults with what are some of those signs that when you're working with kids, what are some of those signs that we see that somebody could be going through trauma, has experienced some of those things. And so that TBR training has been great, and we definitely, from Mr. Eichelberger's vision, we continually want to continue that training with all of the adults within the environment because it's great for kids.
Now, the state of Oklahoma has some requirements this upcoming school year, I believe, with SEL, right? There's the federal dollars, you have to spend a certain amount of it, but isn't there a bill out there called Maria's Law or something like that where we're gonna have to show us accountability of some type? Will this qualify for that? Do we know?
I can't answer that question for you because I'm incredibly disappointed that we have that bill out there that's gonna put any kind of.
Right. There is some, I know some resistance to that right now,
There
so.
certainly is. Our kids need this SEL more than ever. And when parents really get a good understanding of what it is that they're trying to take away from us, I don't think it's gonna make it. I don't think that bill's gonna become law.
Right.
But who knows? I mean, crazier things have happened. The bottom line is we want to do everything we can to take care of our kids, and this is one of the things. You hear what all the great things they're doing at the elementary, but we've been working on TBRI for 4 years in this district, and we'll continue every single time we have a PD day. A portion of that PD day has TBRI in it. So,
well, I'd say, you know, the village doesn't happen without the 2 or 3 years we spent. I mean, that seed was
It comes out of that, doesn't it?
From Ms. Arthur and Ms. Bernard's training, we planted that seed, and, you know, a couple of years later, there's an idea that definitely comes from all that training we had.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, all of you, for what you're doing
Yeah.
in our schools. Much appreciated. All right, let's move on to item 12, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the following contracts and agreements for fiscal year 22. A, Love's Express Advantage Agreement. B, the City of Oklahoma City Rental Agreement for temporary bleachers. C, United Systems Avigilon Camera System hard drive upgrades in the amount of $2,882.84.
So the Love's agreement lets us buy fuel at Love's anywhere in the state, which will help us out particularly with the propane if we ever need that. We can send a Love's card. The bleacher agreement is just like we did last year for soccer and track, so that we have additional bleachers out there for people, because now we're playing soccer on that practice field, and so we need and at some point, whenever we get things settled down, we'll look at making that permanent, making some permanent bleachers. But right now, depending on what we do out there, we don't know, you know, where we would put those, and if we'd have to build them and then tear them down, and that's going to cost more money than waiting. So we're going to just rent. And then the Avigilon is just, we're upgrading that hard drive rather than buying a whole new hard drive, which will save us some money.
I had a question on the bleachers. Do they set those up and take them down, or do they leave them up? They set them up each day?
They set them up and take them down. We set them up once, they come and take them down. The only caveat to that is they have in their contract that if they need them for a weekend, they can come get them and then come and put them back up. So for the most part, I think they were there all year last year. Is that right?
Yeah,
Did they come right at the end of the year and take them for a weekend or something?
No, they never came and took them, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, they left them the whole time.
Okay.
So that's the deal there.
Yeah.
If they come and get them, they have to set them back up. Do we incur another setup fee then, I guess?
No,
No.
that's them.
Thank you.
Move approval on
Second?
Roll call vote?
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item 13, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the following contracts and agreements for fiscal year 23. A, Cox Service Agreement for Internet at the Athletic Complex. B, No Red Ink Master Services Agreement. And C, Quality Choice Testing Agreement for drug and alcohol testing.
Quality Choice Testing is just the same company that we've used in the past. The red ink is that you're doing?
English. Yeah, it's another supplemental for English that, you know, we're looking at trying to find ways to increase ACT, close that learning gap, and No Red Ink is tied to their ELA writing standards. The Dreambox Learning, Reading Plus was the reading standards, so this is the writing portion that will be very useful for our teachers to be able to use and prep for ACT as well. It's aligned very, very, very closely.
Move approval item 13.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item 14, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the following contracts with United Systems E-rate Category 2 for fiscal year 23. A, internal connections, B, basic maintenance, and C, managed internal broadband.
Adam, do you have anything you wanna say about any of that?
No, it's pretty, I think it's pretty comparable to what we got last year, what we spent last year. This portion will cover the remaining part of the middle school and the elementary. So it'll give us replacement access points to the new Wi-Fi 6 kind of compatible device, and kind of get us all on the new network. The high school and half the middle school and the annex were in last year's bid, so
Okay,
comparable to what we spent last year, I think, on that.
thank you.
So this will will you be off of Arrow High
Yes.
after this, you can be completely on a roof?
Correct, correct.
Move approval item 14.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item 15, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the following summer events and activities with the use of school transportation. A, baseball to participate in the Red Dirt League May through June with expenses to be paid from the baseball activity fund. B, football activities as listed on attachment A. This looks like just standard stuff we do every summer.
Move approval of item 15.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item 16, presentation and discussion of the college remediation and dropout reports.
You guys all have that in your packet, right? Okay,
Yes.
so if you remember this college remediation report, it's like a 3-year lag. So the data that we're looking off of comes from the class of 2019, Bethany graduates. So, going across, this basically is just students that go to public universities in the state of Oklahoma. So it doesn't even include the private. We have a lot that go to private, SNU, OBU. This is just public. So if you'll look at the grand total, that's the state. Bethany, we had 41 that went to, out of the class of 2019, public universities in Oklahoma. As far as remediation classes that were required, science, we had 0. English, we had 1. That's 2.4% versus the state 12.4%. Math, we had 4, 9.8% versus the state 20.1%. And then reading, we had 1, 2.4% versus the state 4.1%. So that's pretty much that. It's kind of hard to decipher really what all that data means, that the lag, and we kind of talk about that every year. Any questions on that information? Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
If
Mark.
you look at our
What do you do with
dropout, you have that as well. The dropout, we had 135 seniors last year, and we graduated 132. One of those students is back with us as a 5th year, so we should gain that graduate back. He's on track. So we honestly, we lost 2 kids. There was one student that just did not fare well through the pandemic, and through much reaching out and through communication, just was one that fell victim to distance learning and just not really getting on track and falling further and further behind, and got overwhelmed and never finished. The other was a student that kind of bounced back and forth. We tried all kinds of different accommodations that wanted to be here in person, started in person, wanted to be distance. We tried distance, wasn't working, kept reaching out, wanted to come back, came back, even worked through some of the courses that we offered through the summer. Even though we couldn't walk, there was still some credits that could be available, so we offered that through the summer, but just never was taken advantage of.
What are our next steps with those students? I mean, I'm just curious. I'm concerned about those 2 students,
Yeah.
I know you all are too. I mean, it's not just
Right.
me.
Yeah, you know, it's, once they get to that point, you know, where we get concerned is when we saw things like that, through particularly one of those students, you know, credit deficiencies that occur in the 9th grade.
Mhm.
You know, I've been doing this long enough, you start falling behind in the 9th grade and the 10th grade, the closer you get to becoming 16 and 17, there's a voice inside your head that you see all your friends moving when you're kind of staying in the same place, and that voice says, I got too much going, I'll never catch up.
Mhm.
So that's when the dropout,
Mhm.
you know, thing starts to happen inside the head. So
Mhm.
we have a lot of things, you know, in place, and that's where our relationships, and going back to that TBRI, you know, nothing's more important than the relationships that our teachers form with these kids, and the bonds and those connections, to be an encouragement, to be an inspiration, and, you know, we worked hard at that, and there was many, hands that were reached
Mhm.
out that just didn't get a grab back in return.
So we recognized that back when they were freshmen or whatever, and we offered up credit recovery to them. We offered up
Summer
many
school.
different summer school, all the different things.
Yes.
Parent reached out to parents and just
Okay.
with no avail.
Multiple times.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing that.
All right, thank you, Mark.
You bet.
Move to item 17. Oh,
Approval
sorry.
of item
We do
61.
have to
Oh, or
approve
is
that.
it?
No, it's not an
action item.
Oh, it's just
Never mind.
discussion, sorry. Okay, let's move to 17. Discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the addition of 3 hours to the current secondary ELL teacher position, transitioning it to full-time for fiscal year '23.
So Susan Harding is one of our 2 teachers that are certified EL, and we've got her for 4 of 7 hours. She's retiring. Dawn brought her to us I think we started with 2 hours back when he came from BCO. And we've kind of added hours. She's very good. She loves what she does. She's very good at it. But she's finally to the point where she can retire. She's already retired once. She's retiring completely. And so we've got a decision to make. We've got her at 4/7, and it's going to be nearly impossible to find a certified 4/7 teacher. So what we're proposing is that we go ahead and make that a full-time EL teacher. So we add 3 hours to it, and so we'll have 2 full-time. We've got Penny Brenniger that does that for us full-time, and then we'll have this full-time person, and we've got a full-time TA who is fabulous, Alma.
Move for approval item 17.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item 18, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve opening the following coaching positions for the athletic department. A, assistant coach for girls cross country, and B, middle school assistant baseball coach.
So right now, we have 1 assistant cross-country coach. What we're proposing is to have a boys' assistant and a girls' assistant, which is a recommendation that we got from the current coach and some of the parents, because they saw that we just didn't have enough bodies out there for that. So that's the proposal for that. Then on the baseball, at the start of the year, we had Tony Brady. We told Tony Brady that he was going to get the assistant coach job as the middle school assistant pay. Everything worked perfectly, except we didn't get that to you. So we didn't. So when it came time to pay him here when this season starts, the business office says we can't pay you. We don't have that board approved. So now we're asking you to right that wrong, which is just go back in and actually approve that he's getting that stipend.
So he
Tony's
has-
been, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, he has been working
He
as
has
a
been
middle
working
schooler?
as a
Correct.
middle school assistant.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we did, and we told him that this was all done. You know,
Right.
there's no fault on Tony's part. Tony's done everything. Tony's a great guy. We just dropped the ball on our end.
Move to approve item number 18.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstad,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Item 19, executive session. Do we have a motion
Motion to go into executive session?
to, roll call vote?
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstad,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Second?
Roll call vote.
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstad,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Jennifer,
Do we
do
need
they
to
need to?
stipulate? Yeah, do we need to
just
stipulate
extending
the-
the contract
For how long?
for
You
the
only-
1
1
year.
year
and
is
that's
what
it.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Item 20, do we have any new business?
We do not.
21, informational items.
So we have chosen finally a date for our open house for the West Connector and what we are now calling the annex. We call it the new classrooms and the storm shelter. We're just gonna call it the annex. So the West Connector, which is the front of the middle school that connects to the high school, and the annex on March 22nd from 5 to 7 p.m. We're going to have the community come and enjoy the fruits of all Lingo's labor and their dollars. And so we'll do that right after spring break. And then the foundation banquet is April 26th at 6:30 at the Cole Center over there on Meridian. On Northwest Expressway near Meridian.
All right. Does anyone have any comments?
Yeah, I would just speak to our leaders of our buildings and special services. Thank you for all y'all have done.
It's so.
Huh?
Yeah, there are so many great things
Yeah,
going
I
on.
mean-
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your hard work.
All right. Report.
Yes. So the futsal court is all but the top layer is done. They've got the fences back up and we're ready to go. But we have to have 4 consecutive days of 70-degree weather before they can lay that on top. So it's probably gonna be after spring break before we get that in the forecast and that we can finish that off. But we're this close. We're literally this close to being done with the futsal court. I told you about the open house that we're going to do on the 22nd. The intercom system is up and running well. Middle school and high school is using a feature that allows them to play the last minute of the passing period. They play a song. So Mark and Trey have both chosen a song about time, which lets the kids know that they've got 1 minute when they start hearing the song. They have 1 minute to get to class. And I don't know if it's helped tardies or not, but I can tell you it hadn't hurt it.
Do you take requests?
Mark does. Ours is right before the 8 o'clock. Yeah.
And we are sending a district community survey out. We've done this in the past. We didn't send one last year. It's a little bit later. I usually try to send that in January. We just didn't get the thing completely done. I went through it with the administrators at the last 18 meeting this week, and so we're gonna send that out tomorrow, tomorrow, Tuesday. And this is an opportunity to get feedback from the community and look at areas that we might need to improve. So, and that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. And with that, I will declare us adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
And I need